was going to show the world that the British can still do things as big and as well, if not better than anyone. And our Charlie Gibson is there as well. Charles?
Peter, this dome is in Greenwich. It's about 4 miles down the Thames. And of course, Greenwich so important because it is the center of time. These young people that the Queen has called to the stage are running forward, and they are going to take down a giant curtain which surrounds the Millennium Dome. Here it is coming down, and it will give people the first look at the immensity of this dome. It is a gigantic structure that is along the Thames River in Greenwich. It is the size of 2 Georgia domes, to give you some sense of what it is equal to in this country or in the United States. My favorite stat fact of the entire millennium, actually, is that somebody said if you turned this over and put it right under Niagara Falls, it would take 12 minutes to fill up. It is a giant theater there in the center. The people are cheering. There are about 12,000 invited guests there tonight. And then it is a theme park all around with 14 different centers that reflect science and parts of British life and faith and medicine and a number of things. It is a participatory place where people can come and tour these various centers as well as see theatrical acts in the middle. We are told that the Queen is going to have a few remarks at this Millennium Dome. She has not said anything today, and this will be her opportunity to give a New Year's message to the United Kingdom. You know, with all due respects to Paris, and it was a fantastic show there, the British say they're going to have a bigger show come midnight than any place else in the world. We'll see if they make good on it. But the Queen will spend midnight at the Millennium Dome with these 12,000 invited guests, and the major fireworks show is going to go on along the Thames in London.
And do I understand, Charlie,
Peter?
we're now listening to this New Beginning by John Taverner?
Yes, this is a special composition for the new year and for the unveiling of this dome. This project is very important to the British government. It was started by John Major when he was Prime Minister, and he approved it. Then Tony Blair came in, the Labour government, and they endorsed it as well because it is so important to this country to be seen as modern, very much in the 21st century, not just a relic of the past. Peter?
Our coverage will continue in just a moment.
Should have used Energizer. They keep going and going and going.
This is a fruitcake. You could spend the next few days enjoying holiday treats like this, or you could come to the Gotta Get a Kia year-end sales event and get a 2000 Sportage starting at $13,795 after $1,000 cash back. It's your choice. Either get $1,000 cash back during the Gotta Get a Kia year-end sales event, or enjoy your fruitcake. Nice save.
Stand by, having ground, X-ray 1, right
Initiating data download.
At Merrill Lynch, we're still bullish.
Analyzing data.
From Wall Street to the world.
Introducing the new AccuView 2 contact lens. So natural, it feels like you're wearing nothing at all. For a free trial pair, call us or visit your eye care professional.
Celebrate ABC's Super January with the BCS. Wisconsin meets Stanford in the Rose Bowl, presented by AT&T. Alabama faces Michigan in the FedEx Orange Bowl. Number 3 Nebraska battles number 5 Tennessee in the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl. And number 1 Florida State meets number 2 Virginia Tech for the national championship down in New Orleans in the Nokia Sugar Bowl.
How do you like that?
30 years of making Monday night special. This week, San Francisco, Atlanta at 9, 6 Pacific.
Make your first stop of the new year Health Foods Unlimited. Get the year off to a great healthy start. At Health Foods Unlimited, we listen to our customers' needs and help them make the right choice. Health Foods Unlimited offers the best selection of vitamins, fresh organic produce, and natural and organic food products. Happy New Year from all of us at Health Foods Unlimited.
Health Foods Unlimited.
Seeing our customers satisfied is very rewarding.
Peter, welcome back to London. We are now, I know you have a raft of clocks in the New York studio. We have but one, but it's the most famous clock in the world, I think, Big Ben, which indicates that we have 5 minutes till midnight here in London. The estimates of the crowds here along the Thames have been 2 million, 2.5. I don't know. That seems conservative to me, because this celebration, when the fireworks start going off in London, is going to cover a 4-mile stretch of the Thames River. And the crowd is literally 75, 100 deep all along the river. An extraordinary sight is Westminster Bridge. I hope we have a picture of it that you can see, because it is absolutely jammed with people. It is chock-a-block solid with people, and all of the bridges up and down the Thames are the same way, as well as the northern embankment of the river, the southern embankment as well. Now, as you have concentrated on other cities properly, things have gone on here. Prime Minister Tony Blair, not too long ago, was along the side of the river. He extended a laser beam which shot across the river and started the Millennium Wheel, or the London Eye, as they call it, this giant Ferris wheel that has been constructed on the banks of the Thames that hovers 50 feet above Big Ben, that is going to be here for at least 5 years. I think it is equivalent to what happened in 1889 when the French unveiled the Eiffel Tower. Some people hate it, many people love it, but I think it will be a permanent fixture here in London. It symbolizes the clock, the passing of time. It is also very modern, it is participatory, and that people will eventually be able to ride on it, even though it didn't pass safety inspections yesterday. They've gotten this thing up in just a few weeks, and it will be, I think, a symbol of modern London. And Tony Blair wants London to be seen as modern. Now, I want to give you some explanation of what they're going to try to do in 2 minutes. The sun, as the Earth spins around, the sun is actually traveling across the sky at about a mile every 2.5 seconds. They are going to light the Thames on fire. It is called a river of fire, as they have branded it. The fireworks will start at Tower Bridge, and for 4 miles they will travel right down the river. It will appear as if the river is on fire, because it is the fireworks will be moving at the same speed as the sun across the sky, and they will cover 4 miles in 10.8 seconds with rockets that will blanket the sky at a height of 200 feet. That will be as Big Ben is chiming midnight. And then after that, there's going to be about 15 minutes of fireworks. The Britishers say this is, modestly say, this is the largest fireworks show in the history of the planet. They have 39 tons of fireworks. They're going to set off 45 major fireworks every second. So we have 1 minute to go. This is going to be quite a show. Now, Big Ben has a little bit of preliminary music that comes just before the bells start to bong. That is going to start shortly, and then the Britishers say will come the silence, which is about 1 or 2 seconds before you hear the 12 bongs of midnight. And as that begins, the river of fire will extend right up the Thames River. As we say, the crowds are very thick. The mood is very anticipatory. This should be quite something to see. quite something. The 16 barges that are planted along the river are disgorging the fireworks, and they are grand up and down the Thames, but I'm not sure they were able to light the river on fire the way they said they'd planned. I hope you can see the whole scope of the river, because it's like lace as far as you can see. As we said, from the Tower Bridge in the east to Vauxhall Bridge in the west, up and down the river. The only problem in seeing the fireworks is the smoke that comes from the previously exploded charges. Smells like a powder magazine here along the Thames. Of this, Peter, is just hard to believe as you stand here looking all the way up the river and seeing simultaneous fireworks shot from 16 different barges on the river. It is a discordant note, Peter, but the only times I have seen pictures of London with explosions like this bring back memories of the Second World War and what it must have been like with bombs raining down on London. This country has been through so much in this century, and it is wonderful to see it celebrate this way.
Well, let's very briefly, don't go away, Charlie. We'll be right back in a moment, see whether they can light the Thames on fire after all. But let's check in very quickly elsewhere in Europe with Portugal. Getting to that stage in the day where it's hard to tell whose fireworks are whose. But that is Lisbon in Portugal, and before that was London and the Thames. And this Well, everybody recognizes this. Of course, this is Reykjavik in Iceland, where they are celebrating their midnight as well. One of the friendliest cities in all of Europe. One of the most literate countries, if not the most literate country by definition in Europe. Now let's go back to London.
This is due to go about 15 minutes, Peter, to continue nonstop through that period of time. Oh, New Year's would not be right without a silly hat, so I have brought mine.
I quite agree. I thought you were putting it on to protect yourself from debris.
No, it looks even sillier over this earpiece, but I wouldn't be able to hear you at all if I didn't have these on.
But you want to be reassured that you look silly, do you?
I do.
I'm sure our time will come at midnight. Charlie, thank you very much.
I'm afraid this picture of me will wind up in the file somewhere, and I'll see it for years.
No, there'll be nothing in the file about it. We'll keep it out and very public. Charlie Gibson.
The smoke is so thick, Peter, that you can barely see the fireworks anymore.
Well, I'm sure we'll be told tomorrow that the river really was on fire, that we just couldn't see it for the smoke. But it is something of a reminder for those people who pay attention to history that in 1900, when Queen Victoria was on the throne, she presided over the largest empire in history. 400 million people, 1/5 the Earth's surface. And now as we come to the end of the century, for all this fantastic show that they put on in Britain, on, around, and under Tower Bridge tonight, Britain's possessions have dwindled to about 15 dependent territories. Hong Kong went back to the Chinese, but the Falkland Islands are still British. And now it has evolved to become the American century. And this is the demonstration of a Labour government in Britain, led by Prime Minister Tony Blair, very much determined, as Charlie said earlier, to reassert itself as a technological, cultural power in the world today. Certainly a mecca, as you see there, for people from all around the world, as is New York. January the 1st, 2000, in London, our coverage will continue.
See this one map behind me with all those white dots. Those are the planes aloft right now in the United States. Over 2,300 planes, all flying quite safely, thank you. We should tell you at about Greenwich Mean Time, when it hit midnight, there were approximately 1,350 commercial flights in the United States. You can hear the round of applause here. They're just finishing up a phone call. with Administrator Garvey, which I'll tell you about in a minute. Now, you're seeing some pictures, I understand, of LaGuardia Airport. Right now, in this next hour, they are expecting 10 arrivals and 12 departures through the next hour. It's slow there, but everything is operating as normal. Back here at the FAA Command Center in Herndon, they have a giant map up on the wall that shows the time zones throughout the world. You can see the red line. The red line is where the part of the world which has just now changed to the new time zone and to Greenwich Mean Time.
Lisa, let me ask you this.
Yes.
The administrator of the FAA was going to fly all the way across the country at this time of night. As I recall, there was some difficulty because the airlines kept canceling the flights. What finally happened?
They did indeed. She had to rebook 3 times, Peter. Airlines, you know, canceled really about half of their flights over tonight because demand was so low. She is in the air right now. I'm looking at the map. She's just getting into Arkansas, just passing through Tennessee into Arkansas. Just a few moments ago, she placed a call here. Secretary Slater, the transportation secretary, was here. He spoke with Jane Garvey. He congratulated her on the great effort of getting all of the computers up to speed, getting them Y2K compliant. And also, Jane Garvey said she sent a telegram to the president, and she used the words used by Orville and Wilbur Wright after their successful flight in Kitty Hawk in 1903. The telegram said, "Success, stop. Inform press, stop."
I like it a lot. Thanks very much, Lisa Sark. Success, full stop, inform the press. Well, it's interesting because so many people at the beginning of this year, maybe several years ago, everybody thought they were going to go to exotic or wonderful places and celebrate the New Year. And then as the year went on, everybody decided to stay home and watch television, for which I have to tell you we are very pleased. And as we've watched television from around the world today, I have to tell you, looking at the rest of the world on television, we at least have not been disappointed. We'll continue in a moment.
From around the world, ABC 2000 will continue in a moment.
This is ABC 2000. With Peter Jennings at ABC 2000 headquarters in Times Square, Barbara Walters in Paris, Diane Sawyer in New York, Charles Gibson in London, Cokie Roberts in Rome, Elizabeth Vargas in Sydney, Connie Chung in Las Vegas, Deborah Roberts in Orlando, Jack Ford in Times Square, Carol Simpson in Chicago, and Sam Donaldson at the Y2K Command Center in Washington. With our correspondents spanning the globe in Shanghai, Bombay, Bethlehem, Moscow, Havana, Rio de Janeiro, and across the U.S., reports from Miami, New Orleans, Tucson, Los Angeles, San Francisco. And in New York, Dick Clark counting down to the new year in Times Square. Special Millennium performances by Billy Joel, Elton John, Enrique Iglesias, Faith Hill, NSYNC, Fish, The Bee Gees, Aerosmith, Blondie, Bonnie Raitt, Neil Diamond, Harry Connick Jr., Kenny G, Ray Charles, The Eagles, Barry Manilow, David Blaine, and Barbra Streisand. Now, from ABC 2000 headquarters at Times Square in New York, Peter Jennings.
I was just about to say welcome back to our coverage of the millennium, the end of the century, the end of the 20th century, and the beginning of the 21st. But I'm more tempted to say I hope you're not joining us for the first time, only because it has been such a spectacular day across the world. And we've been here live for a little more, I think it's a little more than 17 hours now, and we're very grateful for the messages we've had from people around the country and around the world who have felt connected by this great feat of technology that has been put together out of a control room just over there behind. Can I have a look, please? Roger Goodman, our director, over there behind this great map of the world. And we've now celebrated the dawning of the new millennium, as we common man, not specialists, tend to call it, in Asia and in Africa, which was not by any means as happy as it was in other places, though there's a lot to celebrate in Africa as well. And then across Western Europe. And now if you look at this great enormous map of ours here, which we have in our studio overlooking Times Square, in which there's, as you already know, there's an enormous crowd. You can see where we are now. It's about an hour after midnight in London and Paris, where we saw two spectacular celebrations, and the clock is now sneaking up on Rio de Janeiro. And then before long, in a couple of hours from now, we'll begin touching the easternmost point of land in North America, and we'll go to St. John's, Newfoundland for that, and then work our way all the way across the continent. We've tried, of course, we've had a wonderful celebration, and we've tried to keep both the past and the future in some kind of context. Today we've had a chance to talk about women in both the last century and in the new one. We've talked about children. We've certainly talked a fair amount, but not enough, of course, about science. And we have had lots of conversation about time, from the Royal Observatory, or the Royal Observatory in Greenwich itself, and on the zero meridian all the way across the Pacific. And we've talked about population. We've had a few people make our predictions. And now we're sort of settling in for prime time television in the United States, or at least in much of the States. And to get it underway, we asked Charlie Gibson and Barbara Walters, we're going to go to Charlie first, to look back at their own celebrations and tell us what they thought was the greatest moment. Charlie, for a while there, I didn't think we'd be able ever to hear you, or maybe even see you again because of the fireworks and all the smoke. But what was your greatest moment?
Well, Peter, a couple of pieces of videotape I want to show you. As midnight works its way across the Atlantic, you're not going to have fireworks for a couple of hours. And so, as everyone knows, the climax of any big show is the biggest. And so I want to show you the last 30 seconds or so of what we had in London, because it was certainly spectacular. And the most amazing part of it was the scope of it. The fact that it extended simultaneous fireworks for a 4-mile stretch along the Thames. And there's my silly face in the foreground there, because it was just amazing. I'm a sucker for this kind of thing. I just love it. And to realize what had come down from the skies in London during this century and how much this country endured during the war, and then to see the faces of all of those people just rapt looking at the sky, it really was a magnificent moment. One other moment I want to show you, which is from the celebration at the Millennium Dome. There was a singer there who was singing, well, they said it was a modern version of God Save the Queen. And we have just a couple of seconds of her singing this that'll give you some sense of what it was like.
God save our gracious Queen, long live our noble Queen, God save the Queen.
Now, Peter, in attendance, of course, was the Queen herself, and when they finally took a picture of the Queen, which we will show you in just a second, she looked a little bit like she was having a root canal. I don't think she particularly appreciated the modern version of God Save the Queen.
God save the Queen. God save the Queen.
Isn't that nice? She seemed to be saying.
Come on,
I don't
Charles.
really think she thought it was.
I'm going to defend the Queen. I remember when the Queen went to New Zealand many years ago, and she was greeted, as so many people are in New Zealand, by the Maori tribesmen, who, as one of their expressions of familiarity and welcome, is to turn and show them their backsides, to moon the Queen. And she had about the same look on her face then. So I think, in all honesty, she's trained herself in almost 50 years on the throne to keep her cool.
Oh, I'll defend the Queen, Peter. I'm not sure I'll defend the singer. That was all.
Oh, I see. Charlie, I want to ask you a question about personalities, because, you know, we've talked a lot today about the list. We talked about the athlete of the century. We've all had the man of the century, or the woman of the century, the athlete of the century here. In Britain, does Winston Churchill automatically the person of the century?
Sure, it's not a debate here. Charles Krauthammer wrote a piece in the States, and it was published over here, and I think it's generally accepted. Churchill held this country together, and he exhibited the grit of the British in the most trying times. This has not been an easy century for the British. They came into it with Queen Victoria on the throne. Britain reigned supreme. They had the empire, and now at the end of the century and the beginning of the new one, they debate their place in the world, whether they really want to be a part of the European Union, whether they need to keep their own currency and whatever. It's been a very difficult time, and Churchill not only held this country together, but I think you can arguably say held the Western Alliance together, and was a transcendent figure at that period of time, and would certainly be my choice of man of the century, and I think it would be unanimous here in Britain.
Well, you're not alone. I was listening to David McCullough, the historian, the other night talk about the person of the century, and he certainly chose Winston Churchill, and there's a whole constituency, of course, for Churchill along with Roosevelt, and as there was, Time magazine, of course, chose Einstein as its person of the century here. Well, Charlie, did they ever get the river on fire?
Peter, don't raise these unpleasant subjects. Nothing ever works totally right in Great Britain, and I don't think they ever did. As a matter of fact, there had been so much publicity about this, and once the fireworks started, apparently the BBC people were calling our people saying, well, when's it going to happen? Is it going to happen? Has it happened? It didn't happen.
Okay, Charlie, thanks very much. I know you're not going very far, though you had me a little nervous with that glass in your hand a second ago, but why not celebrate?
Well, Peter, I speak to you with all the wisdom of the new century. To those of you who are mired in the old, everything looks better on this side.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Don't go away. We'll be back to you, but we want to go now to Paris, where Barbara Walters has been with us every step of the way today, and who would not have wanted to wait for that extraordinary celebration in Paris. Barbara, pick a great moment if you can.
Well, you know, for 17 hours that we were here, the Eiffel Tower was having trouble with its countdown. The sign simply didn't work. And then 1 hour after midnight, it's now 2 a.m., suddenly the sign worked, and it says, on 2000, the year 2000. You can see it there. I don't think, Peter, I will ever forget the sight of the Eiffel Tower shimmering ablaze, as you see it now, with 20,000 lights and the kind of fireworks that we have never seen before. They didn't build a special structure. They didn't build a dome. They didn't have a queen, root canal or not. They just took Europe's most famous landmark and with exquisite taste made it even more spectacular. Take a look. is pretty gorgeous. And then on the Champs-Élysées, where the crowds were, and there were also millions of people near the Eiffel Tower, there's the Champs-Élysées, and they had at midnight about a dozen different Ferris wheels, each one with a different theme. Acrobats, and there was one that was supposed to be the constellation just as it is now. There was one that you could leave messages on with the internet, and they're all going, they're all ablaze just for this one night. And there's only one that you can ride on. You can see that one there. That they have every year. All the others are just for tonight. The whole city is there. It says, there you say, on 2000. And the whole city is ablaze. The bridges are all lit up. But nothing is more glorious than this Eiffel Tower. I came here when I was, I don't know, something like 12 years old, I remember, with my parents, and thought the Eiffel Tower was so extraordinary. Nothing like tonight.
Thanks, Barbara. 2 o'clock in the morning in Paris, and Barbara's going to stay with us, as is Charlie, and they will go on having this endless competition about which city put on the greatest show at the sign of the millennium. And New York's Times Square is yet to come, yet to be heard from here in the eastern United States. When we come back, Elton John and Connie Chung, and we will find them in a city that didn't even exist at the beginning of this century, Las Vegas, Nevada.
ABC 2000 will continue from around the world in just a moment.
Happy New Year. The fireworks have started. It's officially the third or new millennium here in Brazil. And if you think this could be the Latin century, you're absolutely right. The economy is booming. People are very optimistic, and you probably can't even hear me.
Oh, yes, I can, Bill. Thanks very much. Let's just watch and listen to their countdown. Janeiro as it enters the 21st century, country with more Catholics than any other country in the world. And while this millennium celebration may be tinged with Catholicism in some way, there are not many places in the world where they know how to party any better. Okay, we'll gather some string as we go along. We'll continue to record the celebration in Rio de Janeiro, and we'll give it to you in a highlight reel. Several people have asked today whether or not they're going to get the tape of this. I have no doubt, without asking anybody, that someone in this company is going to make a tape of the great moments of this particular New Year's Eve in every corner of the world that we have visited. We'll tell you about that a little later on. We'll go back and visit Brazil a little later on. When we come back, we'll go to New Orleans, and we'll go back to Las Vegas. Stay with us for ABC 2000.
Stay with us as we count down to midnight in Times Square. Still ahead, Dick Clark live from the center of it all. Plus, the piano man himself, Billy Joel, performs live from Madison Square Garden. And the latest on Y2K. ABC 2000, 24 incredible hours continues.
Live from around the world, a celebration of the millennium. This is ABC 2000. With Peter Jennings at ABC 2000 headquarters in Times Square, Barbara Walters in Paris, Diane Sawyer in New York, Charles Gibson in London, Cokie Roberts in Rome, Elizabeth Vargas in Sydney, Connie Chung in Las Vegas, Deborah Roberts in Orlando, Jack Ford in Times Square, Carol Simpson in Chicago, and Sam Donaldson at the Y2K Command Center in Washington. With our correspondents spanning the globe in Shanghai, Bombay, Bethlehem, Moscow, Havana, Rio de Janeiro, and across the U.S., reports from Miami, New Orleans, Tucson, Los Angeles, San Francisco. And in New York, Dick Clark counting down to the new year in Times Square. Special Millennium performances by Billy Joel, Elton John, Enrique Iglesias, Faith Hill, NSYNC, Fish, The Bee Gees, Aerosmith, Blondie, Bonnie Raitt, Neil Diamond, Harry Connick Jr., Kenny G, Ray Charles, The Eagles, Barry Manilow, David Blaine, and Barbra Streisand. Now, from ABC 2000 headquarters at Times Square in New York, Peter Jennings.
What a feast this has been today for the mind and for the eye. You're looking at Easter Island, the world's most remote inhabited island, small and volcanic. And just listen to the sweetness of this celebration for a moment. It was the Dutch mariner Jacob Roggeveen who first found it, the first European to sight the island. He called it Easter Island to mark the date of his discovery. We try to celebrate the millennium everywhere. Everywhere within reason. Let's go to Washington, D.C. and take one quick look at one of the really, truly beautiful sights at night in America these days. They're working on the Washington Monument, as you know, but when they decided to cover it up, to do the work underneath, they did an absolutely gorgeous job. And there are the people gathering for the celebration on the Mall. The president will be there a little later on with Mrs. Clinton as well. They're celebrating in the White House, and we'll go back to the Mall a little later in the evening. But rarely at night did the Washington Monument ever look as beautiful as this. And now we take you to, well, it was the nation's 5th largest city at the time of the Civil War. We go back to New Orleans, founded in 1718, and Steve Osunsami on Bourbon Street. Hey, Steve.
Hey, Peter. There are at least 100,000 people jamming the narrow streets of the French Quarter. They say there's one thing that's particular about New Orleans, and that is people here are always ready for a party. As you can see, these are very popular. Today, the city of New Orleans held a jazz funeral for the millennium, something that they normally do for dignitaries. They started off the procession with a very somber note, and usually the procession changes into a very upbeat note afterwards, after they actually move the casket into the cemetery, but this time they just couldn't wait that long. This is a town where when they hold these funerals, sometimes they take the caskets into the favorite watering holes of people so that the bartenders can pour drinks on them and serve them their last drink.
Steve, let's listen to the funeral for just a second, and we'll get that crowd out behind you.
people in the street. And the people here say that Times Square has nothing on them, because here they can drink in the streets and basically carry on. Even the police say that they have a high tolerance for the way people behave here, because that's what the Big Easy is all about, people having a good time.
Steve Osunsami in New Orleans, I must say to the New Orleans crowd, thank you, Steve, very much. To New Orleans goes the dubious credit today, at least from my point of view, at least in my ear, of having the loudest crowd anywhere. Because I couldn't hear Steve Osunsami very well, but wasn't it, to have a look at the Mass for the Millennium in itself was worth it. We want to go back to Las Vegas now, and ABC's Connie Chung.
Thank you, Peter. You should be looking at an outside view of the Bellagio Hotel, which is at the tip of the Strip. We are inside the Grand Ballroom, which is empty right now, but will be filled with 2,000 of owner Steve Wynn's closest and personal friends. They are the high rollers, and the entertainment will be by the one and only. This man is a musician, a singer, an entertainer, an actor.
And from New Orleans.
He is the heartthrob, yes, and from New Orleans, the heartthrob crooner who brought back the big band era. Harry Connick Jr., thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Connie, and thank you, Peter. And did I understand that you said we had the loudest crowd in New Orleans? I can't believe that. Not New Orleans, partying down there?
That's right. They were sending off the last century and millennium with a funeral.
With
right?
a jazz funeral. That's the only place in the world you'll see that.
Now, you have always been compared to Sinatra over the years, you know.
I'm sorry, who is that?
Right. I get it. But the reality is, when he was here, when he was the king of Las Vegas, he was a boozer and he was a womanizer and he was, you know, doing all that. I'm
continuing the tradition.
You are not.
I'm boozing, I'm womanizing.
You're not. No, you're about
it's fantastic.
No, you haven't even rebelled. You forgot to rebel as a teenager. What happened to you?
I try to rebel with these guys and with the music, you know, so we're having fun.
All right. One thing I want to show everyone is your computer,
yes.
right?
We don't
you don't have sheet music.
No, we don't use the traditional sheet music like most big bands do. What I do is write the charts, and I put them into the computer, and if you can see here, the notes are on the computer, so
Terrific.
It's a lot easier.
All right. What are you singing tonight for us?
Cry Me a River.
Go to it.
Go ahead, Lucian. Now you say you're lonely. You cry the whole night through. Well, you can cry me a river. Cry me a river. I cried a river over you. Now you say you're sorry for being so untrue. Well, baby, you can cry me a river. Cry me a river. I cried a river over you. You drove me, nearly drove me out of my head. You never shed a tear. Remember, 'cause I remember all that you said. You told me love was too plebeian. You told me you were through with me. And now you say you love me. Well, just to prove you do, sugar, come on and cry me a river. You can cry me a river. I cried a river over you. Yes, Lucian Barberin from New Orleans. And Leroy Jones from New Orleans. Remember, I remember all that you said. You told me love was too forbidden. Told me you were through with me. And now you say you love me. Well, just to prove you do. Come on. Cry me a river. Cry me a river. I cried a river over you.
Thank you so much. Harry Connick Jr. Peter?
Thanks very much, Connie, and thank you, Harry, very much for doing this before your show. That's the reason the room was empty, because he's going to do a show at midnight later this evening. We're going to take a Millennium phone call now from Steve Case, the chairman of America Online. Can you hear us, sir?
Yes, I can. Hi, Peter.
How are you, Steve? Nice to hear you. I think I've now just seen everything. I've seen a big band in Las Vegas tonight. They haven't got music stands with sheets on them anymore. They've got computers.
There you go.
Where on earth is this all going?
Well, I think we're on the verge of what probably will be known as the Internet century, because even though this has been an amazing century with the telephone and the cars and the television and the computer, I think now the Internet's really changing people's lives and how they get information, how they communicate, how they buy products. Even for me, I've been doing this now for 15 years, it's really startling to see how quickly this is taking hold and being part of everyday life.
I must confess that even though I've been on television for the last 60 hours, I've got a computer right beside me and I've been getting email from people all around the world. Have you had particularly heavy Internet traffic today?
I think it's a pretty heavy day, and I expect it to be heavier still as we move through the evening. So far, everything, certainly at AOL, I think based on what I've heard, everything on the Internet's handling the demand pretty well. There are a lot of people who turn to television. There are also a lot of people who turn to the Internet. Some turn to both. It's sort of a way to not just watch what's happening, but to converse with others around the world and really be part of the conversation. There's almost an electronic community that forms around these major events. It's really quite striking to watch.
I realize, of course, this is a night for celebration, but you're one of the people who worries about where technology may be taking us in the next century. Any particular concerns we need to be aware of now?
Well, I think we're at a very interesting, maybe even magical point in history, because the Internet's now big enough to matter. People are paying attention to it, but still young enough and small enough to be shaped. Still today, less than half of the households in the United States are connected to the Internet. In other countries around the world, the number is even smaller. So it's still a young medium. It's kind of like television was 50 years ago. So I think there's an opportunity to shape this in a positive way, make sure we build a medium we can be proud of, that protects privacy, that makes sure it's safe for kids, that it really does the right thing in terms of bridging the digital divide so nobody's left behind as we move to this connected society. So there are lots of things that need attention. I'm an optimist on this. I think we can strike the right balance and build a medium we can be proud of, but it's going to take proactive action.
Well, thanks very much. We hope you have a very happy New Year. I think you're home with your family in Virginia.
That's exactly right.
And thank you very much for joining us. We wish you and yours a very happy New Year. Take a look out here at Times Square, because talk about a lot of people who are feeling connected to the world. Roger Goodman, who's our director, tells me there is, oh my God, I feel like Howard Cosell, or one of the guys on Monday Night Football. I don't know where they are. Where are they, Roger? Happy New Year to you, too. I don't think that's ever happened to a newsman before. At any rate, thank you very much, and Happy New Year to you all. Oh, my goodness me. Our Millennium coverage will continue in just a moment.
And the people in that place couldn't decide whether to stay or go. A very funny moment. I see we have pictures now of the choir.
Let's celebrate Newfoundland and Labrador our
Ladies and gentlemen, Newfoundland and Labrador welcomes the new millennium to North America in 60 seconds. 60 seconds to the new year 2000. 60! New year is coming and the future is shining. New millennium, it's celebrating for the new year is coming. 50! Future is shining.
21st century has arrived in North America. Never have I seen so many Newfoundlanders determined to talk to the rest of the world. We'll be back in just a moment.
ABC's global celebration continues. Still ahead, Barbra Streisand from Las Vegas, Aerosmith from Japan, the Eagles' special Millennium performance of Hotel California, plus the latest on Y2K. ABC 2024 Incredible Hours continues after this. Half of us say,
What you don't look too bad for an old guy either. What have you been doing? Now here, this is quite extraordinary.
Oh, it is unbelievable. I've been watching you from Marriott Marquis Hotel, actually, for quite some time.
I think these people probably want you to wave.
Oh, yeah, look at that. I think they're even more excited now.
Now, come and talk to us for just a second about New York City on this particular day. I remember a week or so ago, all of us in the news business were desperately concerned about crowds. Seattle, as we've said before, perhaps a little on Friday night, canceled theirs. Be safe rather than be sorry. What's it been like in New York today, behind the scenes?
I've walked in the crowd quite a bit today, particularly over the last 2 hours, and it seems like a very friendly crowd, very happy, very contented, peaceful.
Had any difficulties behind the scenes today?
Sure. I mean, we've had a lot of bomb scares. Nothing for real, bogus, but probably twice as many as we usually do.
Really?
We've got a lot of police officers patrolling the crowd. We've got celebrations in 8 other parts of the city that number in the 5 and 6 and 7,000s. But this is, now well over 1 million people, and it's going to probably end up at 2 million people. So.
Now, have you been in contact with the federal authorities all day long because of what's been going in terms of the Canadian border?
Everything seems okay. So we're keeping our fingers crossed, and we're praying.
Do you know how many sort of fake bomb threats you've had today?
As of about 5 o'clock, we had 16. And a normal day, we have about 6 or 7. So that's considerably more than normal.
And
but all of them fake, and a lot of things like that. A lot of people, for some sick reason, playing pranks, I guess.
Now, John Miller, who works for us and knows the city very well, told us earlier, I think that you had told him, or the fire chief told him, that you had the number of people in Times Square at 5:30 this afternoon, which you'd had at midnight last year. You didn't anticipate this, did you?
No, absolutely not. Well, I think you could see it being here. You could see it about noon, 1 o'clock today. I was here about 1 o'clock, and the crowds were almost like the crowds we have at 10 o'clock at night. We didn't anticipate it being quite this heavy, but it's terrific. And the police have a terrific plan to allow people to move out further and further, and there are 7 jumbotrons. So the people who can't see the ball directly will be able to see it on the jumbotron.
I was just commenting a moment ago that we don't know from here how deep the crowd goes on the side streets or how far up it goes towards Central Park. What's the answer
right up
to
against
that?
Central Park right now.
Really?
On both 7th and Broadway, it's right up against the park. So you've got people there, and then you have people south, and you have people all the way across 42nd Street over to about 9th Avenue. So it's and it's still filling up. We're still literally an hour away. Usually, traditionally, the crowd doesn't usually start showing up until about now. About at this point, the theaters are letting out, the Broadway plays are ending, and the crowd really starts to swell at about 11:10, 11:20. I can't see it getting much bigger than this.
Thanks for dropping in again. Have a great evening. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Mayor Giuliani, Mayor of New York City. It has been quite a day here. I think we are sometimes blamed for being a bit New York-centric around here in this broadcast, but I hope not. Of the world. I want to go very quickly, speaking of capitals, to Washington, because Sam Donaldson has got about 30 seconds, Sam, if you would not mind, in Y2K headquarters to tell us if there have been any problems around the world at all.
Give me 40 seconds, Peter. And no problems, and everything's going so swimmingly that people here are confident in the United States there will be no problems. However, some precautions are being taken. The Social Security Center in Baltimore is switching to generators off the power company. Now, the Baltimore Gas and Electric Company says, we're ready. Social Security says, well, okay, but we just want to be certain. And Amtrak stations, if you're running on a train, they stop just before midnight, and they give you a whistle which says, I rode Amtrak into the new millennium. If it doesn't work, of course, you can use the whistle to call a cab.
Thanks very much, Sam. Sorry to give you such a short period of time there. We'll come back. The wire services are calling this apocalypse not. ABC special coverage of the millennium continues, but some of our stations are going to take some of their local news in hand at the moment, so we'll break away for a few seconds. If you're not going to go to local news, stay with us. The celebration continues.
Policemen here on duty tonight. 8,000 of them are stationed here in Times Square, and the NYPD has done an extraordinary job of choreographing this whole thing so it's safe, it's happy, it's fun. By the way, there are 102 horses on deck here tonight. They do a great job. $650,000 worth of barricades were purchased for this occasion. And so New York's been planning for a long time. By the way, most of these visitors are from out of town. They're not New Yorkers. 85 to 90% of them came from out of town. Right in this area, there are about 12,500 hotel rooms in the Times Square area, 90,000 in the whole city. And this is a 24-hour celebration. And it's staged by the Times Square Business Improvement District. And they're going to see 500 performers and dancers, musicians, puppeteers, crew members, 1,000 volunteers who are going to drink 7,000 gallons of coffee today. And they've got 5 huge television screens for the people who can't get right here in Times Square. As you can probably hear in the background, we've got the surround sound, and once again, it's free. A lot of people stayed home this year because in one restaurant here in New York, it's $1,000 a couple just for dinner. The great big stage show at the Javits Center was canceled, but they had tickets with $1,000 and up. People said, I'm just not going to pay that. I'm going to stay home, I'm going to enjoy it, and you can feel the excitement building here with all of these people who are the guests of New York City. This is the world-famous ball drop. This is the place to be. I don't care wherever you are in the world, this is the place to be, the crossroads of the world. Peter, back to you.
Thanks, Dick, very much, and we will not have the ball drop without you, I promise. We wouldn't have it on any New Year's Eve without Dick Clark here in Times Square. Even he, I think, is amazed at the number of people That's the police department, but I don't think they're saying anything untoward. And as Dick Clark said, this place has been really well controlled for most of the day. Everybody's been in a festive mood. The mayor was here a short while ago. He said it had a lot of bomb hoaxes, but it was all about bomb hoaxes. So let us spend the next couple of minutes moving before we go back to Dick Clark and the ball drop, which is going to be done along with a representative from Doctors Without Borders this year. And it is some spectacular ball up there on the top of the Old Times building. Let's go up the East Coast, starting at South Beach in Florida with John Quinones, and just check in with all the celebrations as we come up the coast. John?
Hello, Peter. It is a wild scene. You're looking at the jam-packed crowd of hundreds of thousands of celebrants down the middle of Miami's Ocean Boulevard here in South Beach as we head into the final hour of the millennium. Police are describing the situation here as surprisingly problem-free. City officials had told us they had prepared and planned for this like they would for a hurricane. And of course, so far, no storm at all. They were very worried. Police were very worried about a tradition in some parts of the city, and that is the firing of weapons into the air. Last New Year's Eve, a couple of people were wounded with bullets raining now, but so far, no problems here, as I said.
Thanks very much, John. The celebration in South Beach in Miami. We're now going to check in with Terry Moran, who's on the mall in Washington. Terry.
The background is playing taps, just so you know. Peter, the Washington Mall looks just splendid tonight. They're playing taps in the background you might hear, which you might think is inappropriate given the moment. But the President, the First Lady, and daughter Chelsea are enjoying a night here, which is a typical Washington night, full of entertainment and thoughtful, sometimes windy speeches. We've just heard actually a very touching address by Senator John McCain paying tribute to the Americans who've fallen over the past century and defending the freedom that all the people here are enjoying. It has been that kind of night, ranging from entertainment high and low to the kind of thoughtful addresses. The Poet Laureate of the United States, Robert Pinsky, is going to read a poem, a toast to memory it's called, that begins, here's to memory, that numbers all the years. And then the President will address this throng of people. The security here is very tight, and in fact, there are still people trying to get in. It'll be capped by what we're promised will be a spectacular fireworks display over the Washington Monument. Peter?
Thanks, Terry. Not at all inappropriate, it seems to me, to hear taps. We were talking to former President Gerald Ford earlier on out at his home at Beaver Creek in Colorado. And he was saying to us when we asked him what was it about the century that he remembered, it was his service in the Pacific. And as my colleague and competitor Tom Brokaw at NBC has made so clear in the 2 books they've published this year on the Greatest Generation, this is finally the time to celebrate those Americans who gave their lives, both in the Pacific, in Europe, and in other parts of the world, to make sure that the rest of us could get to this moment at this point in time. Let's go to Central Park in New York City, ABC's John Miller.
Peter, we're in Central Park. This is the annual Midnight Run. This is a 21-year tradition, and it's known for the zany costumes. Before the race, they have the costume parade. We've seen everybody from Baby New Year to people dressed as bread and butter. Of course, it's also known for the lack of costumes. Every year they have a couple of streakers here, even after it went out of style. And of course, it's followed by fireworks over Central Park. So this is a big event. Record crowd this year, 7,000 people. Because of the millennium, they have big numbers. So we're waiting for this to go up at the stroke of 12. Back to you, Peter.
And John, don't go anywhere, because we would not want you to miss any fireworks. There's been a real shortage of fireworks around the world today. John Miller in Central Park. We'll be back in a moment with Billy Joel and, of course, Dick Clark.
This is ABC 2000, the celebration of the millennium. Brought to you by Polaroid, see what develops. And by Toyota, taking you into the new millennium.
After this word.
Back to Times Square. We'll be back to Dick Clark in just a couple of minutes from now. But even as encapsulated as we are here above 44th Street and Broadway, we can begin to feel the same kind of millennium madness that people around the world have felt as the moment got close. We're standing actually over a spot where not too long ago Good Morning America put some things into a time capsule and put it into the street permanently down there below, if you're ever passing this way in the century ahead. But as we go back to take one last look before 12 o'clock Eastern Time at the mall, we're reminded there was an opening ceremony there today by some of the members of the National Millennium Time Capsule, and it was quite fascinating, some of the things which were put into the National Millennium Time Capsule. Here are just three of them. One was a submission of a public library card from the Boston Public Library, the first library to allow readers to take books home. Another was a transparent lucite block holding 6 vials of vaccines of the 20th century, which averted illness and disability and death and changed the face of the world. And another was a set of dog tags inscribed to the American to honor American GIs. On the mall for us at the moment, Terry Moran.
Well, Peter, those three items that you mentioned that were placed in the time capsule, along with many others contributed by noted Americans and school children, pretty much capture the spirit of Washington's celebration. It's thoughtful, as you might imagine, in addition to being celebratory. This is a place which is reaching really for significance as well as for good spirits. And we've heard that throughout the night here. And as you pointed out, in the time capsule, there is a lot of that. The president is expected to address the nation in about 20 minutes, and I'm sure we'll get more. Peter?
Thanks very much, Terry. As somebody said, I think in an article in the New York Times the other day, writing about the millennium, whatever 2000 brings, let's all get there at once. Let's go back for the traditional celebration. We join once again Dick Clark. Dick?
Thank you, Peter. It's getting a little more exciting out here in Times Square. We're about 16 minutes away from that big ball drop, and people all over the world will be counting on that ball. It's hanging high up there. In 1904, the Times newspaper moved to what was a place called Longacre Square in those days, and subsequently became known as Times Square. First year they set off some fireworks and celebrated New Year's. In 1907 they had the first ball drop, and it's been dropping to crowds like this for 91 continuous years. Now this hour down, you can see all those Mylar wigs and the balloons and stuff. All of that was handed out courtesy of the business development people. They were celebrating this hour, the Caribbean Islands culture, with puppets and water things, but everybody here in the crowd is looking at the ball. The crowd size has not been officially told to us yet, but if it is 2 million, it'll be the biggest one I've ever seen in almost 30 years of being out here. And as you can see by our ABC clock, we have a little more than 15 minutes still to go. It's really comfortable this year. It's really nice. I've been out here when it's been 17 degrees below zero wind chill factor, and that can really, really hurt. This crowd is having a great time. Let me give you a little update on a wedding we had 14 years ago. We've had a lot of things here happen over the years. Wayne and Vicky Chu got married, and since then, that was in 1985, they've had 3 girls and a boy. Shayna 13, Amanda 11, Cassie 8, Adam 7. They're living in North Carolina these days. We've had 2 marriages and 1 proposal, and it all happened right under the ball drop. And believe it or not, it is about to happen again in 15 minutes from now. 25% of these people down on the street there are from out of the country. They're foreign visitors. And I've always said to you, as we talked over the years, this is a young person's game. Well, believe you me, you got to be young to be here. 70% of those people down there are 19 to 35 years old, and they will drop into the New York City economy about $100 million. That's the financial impact of this celebration this year. Imagine $100 million over a few days. 14 minutes to go till the ball drops, and you'll see it all happen here. The 40 legitimate theaters in the area, most of them have closed. These folks were not going to the theater in any case. They've been in here, since the crack of dawn. Actually, I got up at 5 o'clock this morning and saw them begin to gather. They think the ball is moving. You can hear them screaming, but it's not. It won't drop yet. A little early. They're getting anxious. You can feel the excitement in the air, and this really, truly is a remarkable sight. All started years and years ago. And we'll be back to follow the ball drop here on ABC once again right after this. Seconds from now, it'll be about 10 minutes till the ball drop, and you can feel it in the air. There's a buzz. You hear that sound? They know it's going to happen, and they'll all be looking at the big ball up there on top of #1 Times Square. It's a 77-foot flagpole. Let me show you how they put this ball together and give you a couple of the statistics. It's a 6-foot ball in diameter, and they've mounted on 1,070 pounds of aluminum there. It's just covered with these crystals. There are 504 of them. They range in size from 4 3/4 inches to 5 3/4 inches long. And then again, they're lighted with 168 halogen bulbs at 60 watts, by the way. And as I mentioned, the flagpole is 77 feet tall. It's 390 feet up in the air over Times Square. And that's what these people down in that little square are looking at. This is all of the design of this intricate ball, and it's brand new this year, brand new for the millennium. And of course, there are other symbols around the world. They drop an orange in one place, they light up a fountain somewhere else. But I must tell you, of all the symbols in the world that denote New Year's Eve, it's Times Square and the ball, and that's what they want to see. At the crossroads of the world, it is the place to be. And this is our 28th consecutive year in Times Square. Now, I don't think this crowd is really aware of all the preparation that went into this giant party. Awful lot of people, thousands of volunteers put in a lot of time. The professional crews, they've all got their eye on that flagpole. And when it hits the 2,000, you will hear in 9 minutes and 30 seconds a thing like you've never heard before. The helicopters are overhead. The volunteers have done their work. The professional crews have done it. The musicians, the dancers, the police, as I mentioned earlier, they have consumed 7,000 gallons of coffee. This is something to see. Times Square is a year-round attraction. There's no doubt about it. It is one of the places to see. The first movie theater that presented a talkie was here in 1927. And now, of course, you got dozens and dozens of movie houses everywhere, 40 legitimate theaters in the area, 250 restaurants, if you can believe that. And there are 12,500 hotel rooms in the area. We've got 9 minutes to go until the ball drops. Speaking of hotel rooms, 90,000 citywide, so New York City can throw a party. You know, the nice thing about this is these people have not been allowed to bring in alcohol. They're having a great time on their own. They're conversing, having intimate conversations, but they're screaming and yelling. They got the crazy wigs on and their glasses. They're just happy to be here. And as 1999 passes into 2000, we're going to remember certainly the Latin music take over, the female singers take over, the boy band take over, and things like the Blair Witch Project. I wonder what they would have said if they'd seen the ball. Bruce Springsteen's $53 million tour. It's been a big year in entertainment. It's a big night here in Times Square. This was the year of the internet impact, $1 million game shows, Santana's return, wrestling's return. By the way, as we watch the ball up there, do you have any idea? Yeah, it's 7 minutes to go, and we got just a second here. The BMI people, the folks who publish or keep track of a lot of the music, christened the top song of the century is "You've Lost That Love and Feeling." The Righteous Brothers, and Ascop's top song of the century was "Happy Birthday to You," if you can believe it or not. Once again, let us thank a wonderful ABC crew for putting all of this extraordinary coverage of the millennium around the world, and especially here in Times Square together. Larry Klein's been our producer for goodness knows how many years. Bob McKinnon is our director. Bill Clark is the executive senior producer of the ABC television crew, and they've done a phenomenal job. That stage there in the middle has been the site of a lot of entertainment today. And as you see these giant billboards, they're all over the place. Back in the 1930s, Benny Goodman was the guy here. Just yesterday, as of 1942, Frank Sinatra appeared at the Paramount Theater for a 4-week engagement, and they extended it for 4 more weeks. Right here in the center of Times Square. In the 1950s, we had the first rock and roll shows. Alan Freed was here. And in 1983, you talk about big crowds. Big, big crowds. Central Park was inundated with people. That's when Diana Ross was there. And in 1997, Garth Brooks was there. Every eye is on the ball at 6 minutes and 40 seconds to ball drop and counting down. The weather tonight is perfect. I mean, look at them. They're not all bundled up. You can't even hardly see the breath in the air. I mean, usually they're rubbing themselves, hugging themselves, trying to stay warm. This is a walk in the park this year. Temperatures are in the mid-30s. A little earlier we said 37. It's probably down around 35 or 36 now. But they are not paying any attention at all to the weather. They're in a party mood. Now, all of these balloons and the funny-looking Mylar wigs and all were handed out by the Business Improvement District here, and they have done an extraordinary job of really putting things together here. It's a wonderful, wonderful party, and certainly one that will be long remembered for many, many years to come. I've just heard from the control room that it is still 37 degrees. And as I say, you would think it was in the mid-50s in terms of these. Look, they don't even have their hats on tonight. I'm still looking for that guy who's out there without his shirt on. There is always one guy, no matter what the weather is, who's out there hanging around. What are they shouting about? Let me check this out. There's a huge cry. I guess they saw the ball wiggle or something. I tell you, they can't wait. It's only 5 minutes away. I don't know if you can hear the helicopters hanging overhead, but they're up there. You know, each night, 6 million volts of electricity are shot through these extraordinary signs here. There are 300 miles of neon there. Billions and billions of visitors have come to this area since 1904. You can hear the music building in the background. They have this surround sound this year. All sorts of sound and confetti and other doodads will happen as we go along. There are 500 dancers, actors, musicians, and puppeteers. 7 giant screen TVs. 160 puppets, 57 banners, 500 3-foot balloons have been distributed, and 100,000 handouts, which include pom-poms and leis and wigs and flags. They've all gotten their little party souvenirs, and they're having a great old time. There's the ball. It hasn't moved yet. It won't move for another 3 minutes and 47 seconds. Piccadilly Circus is big. Ginza in Tokyo is big. But ain't nothing like the ball in Times Square. Crossroads of the world in New York City. This is the place to be, believe you me. I wish I had the balloon concession, but those were all given away free tonight, isn't that right? Happy-looking group of people. Notice the ages, though, don't I say? It is a young person's game. In order to stand out here for 10 or 12 hours, you got to have a lot of stamina. And the police have arranged the porta potties on the side streets and all. They've accommodated the people who couldn't get into the square. They've worked it out so people can move around with ease. And we're just less than 3 minutes away from probably the biggest sound you will ever hear as the Millennium Ball Drop happens. I mean, I've seen a lot of them, but I've never seen the size of a crowd like this. If indeed this is 2 million people, there are only 3 cities in the United States that are bigger than this crowd: Chicago, New York, and LA. This is big, really big. They talked about 3 million people on the beaches in Rio. They can stretch them out a long way up and down that beach down there. They're a little cozy down here. Yeah, say hi to Mom. She's watching you on TV. 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Every single person in this crowd is watching for that thing to move. It's all computerized now. In the old days, you used to drop it with a nylon clothes cord with 3 guys and a Mickey Mouse watch. It's all computerized now, highly technical. A couple of years ago when they first started, we had a minor glitch. Talking about Y2K things this year. A couple of years ago when it was computerized, we were a little bit late. I think we lost it by about 2 seconds that year, and boy, did it hit the papers. As I waved to television, turn around now, watch the ball. That's up there. You think she heard me? That's a funny look. Look at them. They're all the way up to Central Park, all the way down to 42nd Street. This is a massive New Year's Eve crowd with 1 minute and 30 seconds left. Listen to the music build. They're ready. They're in their sombreros. That's our street cam. We've got 25 cameras here tonight covering this event. This is a really big one. You were wise to stay at home. In 1 minute, the ball will drop and you will see pandemonium. Listen to them. The ball is beginning to move. They can feel it. They know it. In 47 seconds, it will be 2,000. You're in Times Square with a couple of million intimate friends. 35 seconds. They're ready in 30. Get close to somebody you love. In 25 seconds, it'll be the new year. In 20 seconds. And we're going to count it down from here down when we get to 10. Are you ready? Happy New Year early. In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy 2000! Looks like a blizzard there. That's 3,500 pounds of confetti being fired by cannons from 13 different locations. Our cameras can hardly see through the paper. Happy New Year! amongst all of this happiness, I wanted to make one note of a passing this last year of a dear man, Mr. Leonard Goldenson, who put together the ABC television network and stood by my side and made my professional life everything it turned out to be. He was an extraordinary man, a wonderful entrepreneur, a visionary, and he will be sorely missed. Mr. Goldenson, thank you, sir. Well, they're in a party mood. Can you imagine how long this thing is going to last? Can you imagine how much work it's going to take to clean this mess up? Whee! They're partying in the ABC room, but you got a whole night ahead of you. This is magnificent coverage going on here for the ABC 2000 event. The people here in Times Square will continue to party on into the wee hours. You can count it. They're taking pictures of each other, celebrating. They're in a festive mood if ever there was one. Going to preserve that on his home video there. You won't find a happier group of people anywhere in the world. And it'll be very interesting tomorrow to see if the official estimate is 2 million. I can usually tell. Years and years ago, I could sort of judge it by looking up and down the street. You can't take an individual head count, but I'd say, well, 500,000 people are here, and sure enough, it would appear in the paper the next day to confirm it. I have no more idea in a billy goat how many people are here tonight, but it's a lot. This is the biggest New Year's Eve crowd I've ever seen in the almost 30 years I've been hanging around here. Once again, congratulations to the NYPD. They do an extraordinary job. The city of New York throws the biggest party in the world. It's orderly, it's happy, it's well controlled. Beautiful job. And once again, thank you for allowing me to be a part of your New Year's Eve. Peter Jennings, Happy New Year early. I'll see you soon, sir.
Thank you, Dick, very much. Thank you, Dick Clark, very much for a wonderful evening and a wonderful celebration to all of us, not only in New York, but across the country. Dick Clark, without whom we would not want to have a New Year's celebration in Times Square. And sure, those of us who are here are just a little biased as to whether it was the biggest or the best celebration. Wherever you were, we hope it was the biggest and best celebration. People here waited for 19 hours. And hey, listen, this was the way the vote went. Happy New Year to you all across the country and across any other country that happens to be watching us. We had a great time. As I said, they waited 19 hours here in Times Square to share a moment like this, and they waited in every other city in the world to have a happy millennium moment as well. And now we're going to take a break and then work our way all the way across America. Thanks for being with us.
This is ABC 2000, the celebration of the millennium. Brought to you by Pepsi, the joy of cola, and by Discover Card. There's always something more to discover. Once again from Times Square, Peter Jennings.
Well, while we were getting dressed up and celebrating here in Times Square in the last couple of minutes, of course, people were celebrating everywhere else as well. And so let's take a quick chat. We're going to go back to Madison Square Garden in just a minute and hear Billy Joel one more time. But for the moment, let's share a little bit of the celebration on the Mall in Washington. President Clinton showed up, as we know, some time ago. And as they celebrated the millennium, he invoked the words of Martin Luther King Jr. when he said, "Let freedom ring." And this is what it looked like. Said earlier that this was a subdued crowd in Washington, but it doesn't look like it at the moment. And what wonders they have wrought inside the monument. now we return to Madison Square Garden and the great Billy Joel.